And it's a pleasure to be part of Lawchemy. I've heard about Lawchemy for quite some time, and you've got a wide variety of audiences from various parts of the country. So, thank you so much for having me on your show. Uh, so, as far as my journey is concerned in the field of ODR, I must congratulate Lawchemy for choosing a
Yeah.
title that affects the common man, which is how does one look to tackle the access to justice problem? The access to justice problem is incredibly fundamental, and it's part of it. It's perhaps one of the very few pieces of uh, pillars in the legal field that can actually have a transformational effect through technology. Now, through online dispute resolution, you can look to make a discerning impact on the day to day lives of the common people that trust the judicial process. So, my own my own journey began as my career as a litigation lawyer. I did my law in England. I qualified for the bar, where I was one of the youngest mediators in England at that point in time, way back in 2008. I got accredited by the Civil Mediation Council, and there was something that was not sitting well with me. I was trying to see how can we fuse technology and law together way back in those times, and that's when we said let's try and bring in mediation and arbitration into the legal fold and try and see if we can fuse that with technology. Now, my experience as a litigator, as well as my interest in the field of technology, is what brought me to the crossroads of law and tech.
Uh, So, sir, you have been practicing law for 15 years, right? Take
Yep.
us back to the beginning. What drew you towards law, and was there a particular moment where you realized you wanted to do something beyond traditional courtroom litigation?
See, today, when I began my career in 2010 as a litigation lawyer, I came back to the Madras High Court, one of the charter high courts of the country, an extremely prestigious high court. Uh, I began my career as a litigation lawyer working under the former Advocate General of the state, where I saw firsthand the challenges that people face. Because today, nearly 35-40% of the litigations that are there in courts today are all governments as respondents. So you have the writ practice that is possibly one of the uh, key pivots for making a change in the system. Now, 2010, I began my career. I had a deep interest in sports law, so I decided to take up representing sporting federations. I had the opportunity to work with the former Chief Justice of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, Justice Mukul Mudgal, who is regarded as the father of sports law in the country today. Uh, I then saw firsthand of the challenges that people face as far as you take a routine writ case that comes to the High Court, any High Court for that matter. It could be as simple as a writ of mandamus or a writ of certified mandamus that you would look to ask the court, and the court would direct the government to execute that particular, or direct the government to consider the representation and dispose accordingly. But then that got me thinking. I was like, is that justice at the end of the day? Is that
Yeah.
is there a better way that we can make the system a bit more efficient? And one of the ways that I thought was, how do we fuse technology into this particular space? I often regard law to be the last bastion or the last frontier where technology has not penetrated. In 2012 to 2014, you had fintech coming up, you had pharma tech coming up, you had your real estate technology coming up, you had all those things embracing technology. But law and the judicial sector was possibly the last bastion where technology couldn't penetrate. And I wanted to take that up as a challenge and see how we can make an impact to the courts as well as the citizens.
Oh, that's fascinating, sir. I think many young lawyers start their journey primarily about litigation. So it's interesting to understand your perspective evolved. So let's move further. Uh, you came from a family. You came from a family with a remarkable constitutional and legal legacy, right? So growing up around that environment, did it feel like a responsibility to carry forward that legacy, or more like an inspiration that stopped your thinking?
The uh, legacy will only get you that far and no further. I always believe that. Legacy will only get you to the door. But beyond that, it is your passion, it's your commitment, it is what drives you that makes you who you are at the end of the day. So for me, I had a passion towards law as well as polity right from when I was a young kid. Mostly because I used to grow up with stories, listening to my forefathers who have left an imprint on the Indian constitutional framework as well as shaping up of the country. So when you hear these stories, there is that 1 or 2% of interest that sparks in your mind. So I was very focused from when I was in my fifth standard or sixth standard. I decided I want to be a lawyer. And legacy comes with its own share of problems. From the outside world, legacy is great, but legacy also means that there is added responsibility of how you want to make that impact on the ecosystem. But definitely,
That's really
but definitely
that's
for me,
interesting.
definitely for me, I felt that that constant nudge at home, that constant discussion of how my granduncle was working at that point in time, in how he shaped the constitution framework, all had a lasting imprint on what I wanted to do.
It shows how early influences often shape the way we think about institution and public service. So yeah, let's move. You became one of the youngest certified mediators under UK Civil Mediation Council. How did the experience shape your understanding of dispute resolution? And there was a point where you began connecting mediation with technology.
The, globally, if you look at it, technology has always sat in the intersection of law and access to justice around the world. Now, I was fortunate to do my law in England, and which I regard as the hotbed of litigation as well as for lawyers. I call that as the mother of the legal system and the mother of the legal framework. So for me, when I was there around 2008, 2009, when I became a qualified mediator with the Civil Mediation Council, they were all already talking about how do we start resolving disputes through emails? How do we start resolving, how do we have a mediation through asynchronous communication? How do we have a mediation resolved in the most efficient manner? Now, all of this leads up to one single word, which is called technology and technology transformation of the disputes that can unclog an already clogged judicial system. So for,
That's a
for
powerful insight.
so for us, it was an eye opener, and then that's when we decided as a collective, me, my co-founder, all of us, we decided as a collective that we should try and give back to the society in your own way. When you make an impact on the society, it has to be felt by them, it has to be appreciated by them.